Finally, I wanted to introduce our speaker for our final session. So, Laurie Pepe is, again, as I mentioned, the education director for the Bucks County local chapter of NAMI, which stands for National Alliance of Mental Illness. And she lives here in Bucks County. She's a facilitator and she is a dual degree professional with a BA in psychology and an AAS marketing merchandising from FIT. She's worked within the behavioral health system for many years, primarily with transition aged youth, but also with adults for many years. And she's facilitated for training for self advocacy and mental health awareness, and has obtained grant funding for all different programs within this area. She's responsible for recruiting, training, supervising, and mentoring for young adult speakers. And she schedules on all the school and community presentations. So again, as I mentioned before, she goes into the schools and helps educate our local youth. And she serves on a variety of boards. And she's also a singer and songwriter and poet. But she also lives with her grandchildren, and she has 3 grandchildren under the age of 7 whom she's caring for right now, so she deserves a medal. But anyway, with no further ado, there's many wonderful things. I'm going to just keep it at that. I'm going to turn over the focus to Laurie, and thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rabbi Weiss, and thank you for everybody who showed up today. I know it's been a wonderfully long and hopefully beneficial day with lots of great information. I did look at the flyer of everything that you were going to experience for today. I do apologize. Nick Amy was supposed to be with me today. He is our Director of Outreach and Development, and he is actually the one that does most of the sitting on the boards and whatnot. I've kind of relinquished that. So NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We are the local Bucks County chapter located in Warrington, but we do serve all 3 areas of the county: Central, Upper, and Lower Bucks. Nationally, we're the largest grassroots organization for mental health advocacy and education efforts. And what brought me to the agency, I'm, as Rabbi has said, I'm a singer and a songwriter and a poet. I also support a loved one who's also a singer, a songwriter, and a poet. And that's how we choose to identify ourselves. We also struggle with mental health issues. My daughter has written 3 poetry books. She sings like a bird, but she also struggles with bipolar disorder, with post-traumatic stress disorder, and social anxiety. I myself struggle with depression and anxiety and have for many years. So with that, I can share a little bit what it's like to be a peer in recovery and also support a loved one in recovery. The program that I direct is called Ending the Silence. I go into all middle and high schools that we can get into to talk to our young people about warning signs of suicide, what to look for if you think you could be struggling with a mental health issue. You know, for young people, it's not as easily identified as it is for an adult. It might show up in their world as headaches, stomach aches, inability to perform in school, lack of social engagement. All of a sudden, there's a lack of interest in activities and things that they used to be joyful about. So we try to let them know it's okay that those things are going on, and they have to actually become experts with their own self-worth, because once they decide to make a commitment, enter a therapeutic environment, it's all self-reported symptoms. So they have to be comfortable knowing where it's showing up in their life, how it's showing up in their life, so that they can communicate that to a clinician or a provider. And then, of course, you know, with family involvement, we do the same thing. We address issues of bullying, which has become quite epidemic. You would think, you know, people growing up today would be less discriminating instead of more discriminating, but I think they are so indulged with so many things. And of course, social media is an aspect of that. So there's a lot of bullying, there's lots of self-harm, which leads to young people getting homeschooled because the environment is too painful to go to school. We talk about how they treat one another in language and action, especially with the degree of suicide that we have in our county. Bucks County has a high incidence of suicide amongst young people. It's underreported. This year, we lost 8 young people to suicide within middle and high school, the youngest of who was 13 years old. And I say underreported because the stigma that exists still does not encourage family members to put a cause of death in an obituary. They'll say this young person died suddenly, and especially if it's an incidence of substance use. They're even more reluctant to put that out there. So 8 young people within a year is 8 people too many. And that is only those who have unfortunately died by suicide. That does not take into consideration those who have attempted, those who have suicidal ideation, and those who may have a plan in place. So the school piece is very important. You know, we want to get young people before they reach a crisis phase, before there is a need for hospitalization, before there's a breakdown or a possible suicide attempt or a possible issue with substance use. So that's the program that I facilitate called Ending the Silence. But NAMI has a lot more than just the youth piece. We have many different support groups throughout the county that have 37 meeting times a week. They're all free. They consist of peer support groups, which is someone who's living with a mental health issue. We have family support groups, which is a family member who wants to learn more about how to support a loved one. We have LGBTQ groups. We have youth support groups. We've added a group this year called Alternatives to Suicide to possibly address the fact that maybe if we can invite people to talk about it more, there would be less incidents of attempts. It also gives people a very safe place and safe space to discuss the fact that in reality, some people actually struggle with thoughts of suicide often. Doesn't mean that they have a plan, doesn't mean they're going to execute that plan, but it's a safe place for somebody to say, I struggle with this. I struggle with thoughts of not wanting to be here. And I feel comfortable that I can talk about this in a very safe, secure form. Normally, of course, all of these support groups are face-to-face. Now we've had to move into a virtual platform. The other groups we have are, we have separate LGBTQ, we have youth, we have family, we have peer, alternatives to suicide. We added a self-injury support group because of the incidence of people engaging in self-harm. And of course, all of our groups, they're free to the community. They meet in several different areas, and like I said, 37 different meeting times a month. Once the pandemic hit, we had to address it swiftly because we didn't want anybody to get lost and not get support. And we're all very clear that it is a non-clinical support atmosphere. We are not a replacement for therapy. We are not clinicians, but our unique offering is that we are all peers. We are all peers in NAMI. We either personally struggle or we support loved ones who struggle. And the success of the Zoom groups has been amazing. I mean, we have addressed more people virtually in 3 months that we have in an entire year face-to-face at the agency. Now, some of that is because the barriers are removed with transportation, so people can access us online. The other thing is, instead of offering maybe a couple of groups a week or alternate Mondays, we offer several groups every single day of the week, 7 days a week. We have also added some lighthearted activities, not just support groups that address depression and anxiety, self-harm, suicide, etc. We have a creative arts group that I run on Sunday nights, which invites artists of all different mediums, whether it's visual art, spoken word, music, playing instruments, crafting, photography, and it's another opportunity to show that art heals, and also another opportunity for people to share their gifts and talents and maybe place the focus on something more positive than what we're encountering over the last couple of months. The other groups we have added, which encourage a social, safe place to meet, is we have Netflix. We have movies every week, sometimes once or twice a week. We do a Netflix movie where everybody comes in the Zoom room and watch a movie together. Sometimes they're very family friendly, so you can invite family members to sit and join in. We have a game night where we play a game virtually. What else? We're continuing to add to that. Oh, meditation and yoga for some self-care so that people can get out of their own head. If nothing more, those of us that have struggled with mental health issues prior to the pandemic knew what it was like to be isolated and alone, and perhaps didn't have the social outreach that everyone is experiencing by force now. So people are starting to understand what it was like to be in our world more than they would like to. And it is causing a rise in mental health symptoms because of the isolation, because of the loneliness. One of the things I wanted to address and talk about is our inability to celebrate the good and the bad. People in our group and people outside our group have had losses in their life that they can't address because of the constraints that the governor has issued with regards to our safety. So of course they're respected, but it doesn't allow for the type of closure, less than 10 people to memorialize, to honor someone's life. Conversely, we've had people who've welcomed new people in their life. Babies have been born. Celebratory events are not happening the way we are accustomed to celebrating and having those things. So that lack of tactile contact and human one-on-one contact is causing a rise, in people's anxiety and their symptoms. So we're hoping, we're able to, in a very informal atmosphere, address that with everyone so that, we can all feel supported, we can all feel welcome. And I have to say that we have a core structure of people that visit our support groups on a daily basis. And it's become quite close because of the frequency that we see one another, because of the compassion that we all have in everybody trying to deal with the limitations, with the fact that our choices have been taken away. Typically we can distract ourselves from things like, oh, I'm going to go take a ride and I'm going to shop. Or now we shop for essentials. We go out when we need food. We go and maybe put gas in the car. We do essential shopping. We don't do visiting. And like I said, we're kind of getting robbed of all these celebratory events that would lift us in lots of different ways. So, I don't like to use the word normal. NAMI doesn't like to use the word normal because we don't consider normal as a setting on a piece of equipment. But this, for us, this pandemic, this isolation, this being, unable to hug someone and go visit a loved one has caused us to reevaluate our lives in many different ways, to preoccupy ourselves more with social media, more with using phone and devices and games and all kinds of things that we can use to interact. And for the most part, that can be successful. It certainly is not a replacement, but I've seen it bring people together in ways that they probably weren't seeing as much of before. You see lots of people, getting involved in these Zoom rooms and inviting family and friends and, doing certain things online, whether it's sharing a meal. I think it was, we had a bunch of folks that did a Saturday night Seder, and they had everybody in the Zoom room. We've had virtual birthday parties with people. There's been drive-by activities where people ride their cars by and they put posters up and things like that. But again, it has really caused us to reevaluate, how we do things because, the constructs are there that, social distancing. I mean, whoever thought you'd go in a supermarket and there's arrows and there's X's where you need to stand, and people apologize if they cross your path, and we're walking around with masks and gloves, and it's all very uncertain. It's very scary. And the uncertainty of not knowing when this is going to end, I think is also something that's very much on people's minds. It's not as though we have a date certain. We have, soft reopening, yellow phase, manufacturing. It still isn't telling us, our kids are home from school. They're getting homeschooled. People have lost income. People have lost jobs. People can't go out and secure new jobs or new employment. There's financial struggle. Let's face it, you're not used to being around. If you don't live alone, you're not used to being around people that you live with 24/7. I have three grandchildren under the age of 5. I'm not used to that all day long. I mean, I have to rearrange my whole work day and I get interrupted a lot. And then, I have to pitch in because I do support my daughter. So, it has caused us to live our lives very differently. And we want to make sure that people are exercising self-care during all of this. So, yes, we can go out and take a walk, and that's why we offer meditation and yoga and salsa dancing and word games and ways for people to watch a movie together and to try to take our minds off of the constant media blitz that we're getting about numbers and people infected and people dying. And we really encourage people, limit your contact of news content. Don't constantly be reading about it all day long. It's not good for your mental health to do that, certainly to continue to bombard yourself with what's uncertain. And we're getting conflicting reports of that as well. That, the governor says this, the governor says that. We're opening up golf courses, liquor stores, things that I don't know. Some of these things are essential to some people, certainly, but that doesn't speak to everyone. And it doesn't speak to what people are going through right now, which is something unlike anything we could have prepared for. So there's been a difficulty ramping up for all of this to try to decide, well, what do I do now? How do I orchestrate my life in a different way that I never expected I needed to? And sometimes it's very daily fundamental things. I've started to say myself, I'm getting too comfortable. I'm getting too comfortable with working from home. And, sometimes, and if you tell anyone, I'll deny it, I'll do a support group in my pajamas with a robot or a sweatshirt or something. I mean, we're getting kind of used to being in this isolated mode a little bit more, to the point where people are like, well, what's going to happen when we don't have this? Our choices will be different. What will we do? I took a ride in a car the other day just to do essential shopping, and it felt awkward to be in a car driving. And I look at the roads, and the roads are somewhat empty. So, like I said, the lens is much different than anybody could have possibly anticipated. And, we're just trying to meet people's needs in a safe, comfortable, social way. Again, I have to stress, we are not a replacement for therapy or any kind of clinician. Lots of clinicians and therapists are offering telehealth, which is very good. Some are, some aren't. We can certainly provide resources for that. We like to be thought of as a good resource for lots of types of intervention, whether it's crisis. We have contacts with crisis intervention and with area hospitals and people who might need a higher level of care, like an inpatient stay or an intensive outpatient stay. And we certainly have a resource list of people that we can refer out based on your insurance, so that if you need more than just a support group, we hopefully can help you fill that in so that you can attend to your mental health. So I'm trying to think, what did I miss, if anything? I'm sure I missed a lot, since we do a lot with NAMI. But does anyone at this point, was anything, do you have any questions right now before we open it up for questions? I'm more than happy to take something sooner than the actual prescribed time, if you like. You can either raise your hand or you can just unmute yourself and ask a question if you like. Anyone? Well, like I said, all of NAMI's programs are free and open to the community on a daily basis. We have several support groups during the day. They are all listed on our website, which is namibuckspa.org. If you are active on social media, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with posts. We also like to do positive posting, stories of resiliency and recovery. One of the things I know I neglected to mention, which just came into mind, was the Ending the Silence program that we go out and do. We incorporate young adults in recovery. So we use young people who have lived experience, and it may have started at a middle school level or earlier. They go about sharing their lived experience from a crisis phase, and of course they tell people where they're at now, which is in a place of recovery where they're actively involved in either school, working with us, have a more fulfilled life, and they're in treatment. they're in treatment. Of course, does relapse happen? Absolutely. Relapse is part of recovery, and it happens not only with our young adults, but it happens within the population of people that we support. And so we are there for that when relapse happens, so that we can be supportive. We have supported lots of people in our support groups that have gone through loss, and are grieving. People that have uncertainty with housing issues because of the pandemic. Moving is stressful. Separation is stressful, when things are not in quarantine. So imagine the level of stress that exists now when we're in quarantine and our resources are not as plentiful and the opportunities are not there as they were before. Everything kind of encounters a barrier where you say, well, you just office for this. No, that office is closed. So you're not able to do that. Realtors are not working right now unless they're doing it in a virtual format. So there's so many things that we are limited by, but the hope is as a collective, we can support one another, not only emotionally, but give the kind of resources and open it up to what we do in all our support groups is we open it up to what they call group wisdom. And we let people share what's worked for them. How are they operating in their day-to-day? And a lot of times we find strength in what other people are succeeding with. And then we are also able to share, well, I have something that I use in my lifestyle in how means coping mechanisms that work for people that we may not have thought of individually. And we're also available offline. We have an active Facebook page. We respond to those within a 24-hour period, and that's active. We have a helpline 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, and those calls are returned as well. And so we try to be a great source of support and encouragement for people who are struggling. You don't need to have a diagnosis to come into our support groups. You can come into our support groups as a guest, not having a diagnosis, just wanting to benefit from what we offer in terms of support, or if you have questions or services. And then, of course, like I said, we do have opportunities for families who want to know more. This year, NAMI Basics, which used to be taught in a face-to-face, used to be a split training, now is being offered online exclusively. So you can take something called NAMI Basics at your leisure online, which gives you basic fundamental information about mental illness. And it gives you sort of an introductory education that can serve as a foundation and a platform. And then you can decide if you want to take advantage of any of our other groups that we have. We also have education classes. One is called Peer-to-Peer, and that is a 10-week guided class with an actual binder separated with different categories and different sections that address different parts of mental health. That's peer-to-peer. That's for people living with a mental health issue. Then we have family to family. And again, that's the family component where families are trying to support their loved ones. That is a 10-week class as well. And normally that meets outside of a virtual environment, but if this pandemic, exists longer, we may offer it virtually, because like I said, it does remove some of the obstacles with transportation, and people can come on and they can get their chapters delivered digitally instead of in a face-to-face forum. So it has changed the way we do things. Certainly, like I said, it's not a replacement. We will resume face-to-face support groups, but we will continue a virtual format as well as we move forward towards the different phases of reopening. But we will maintain this Zoom virtual format, not with the frequency that we have now, but certainly it's not going to be abandoned because it has been successful. I've met many, many wonderful people, some of whom are in the room here, who either volunteer or just come to our support groups, and they not only give, they receive and give back, and it's been a fabulously rewarding experience for myself and for Nick and for other facilitators that come in. So, well, thank you. I see hearts and little emojis and things. So I would like to hear from anybody in the room to see if how you are dealing with this pandemic and for the amount of time that we've had. Al? Let me unmute you. Hey, hey, AJ.
Hey, how you doing, Laurie?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. I'm really glad I heard you mention the educational classes. That was my first introduction to NAMI.
That's great. Yeah,
Yeah,
wonderful. And congratulations, by the way. I heard you're going to be our new coordinator for CSP.
thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes,
I'm really
congratulations.
excited.
Yeah, AJ also facilitates our support groups, and now he has just been hired as a CSP coordinator, which is a fabulous group that meets. You usually meet in Lower County, or is it pretty much across the board in all areas of the county?
Central and Upper Bucks, yeah.
Oh, okay, so we
Yeah,
got all areas of the county, which is good,
yeah.
which is wonderful. Let me see
I
if
did
any.
have a question,
Sure.
um, and I'm getting to know NAMI better and better, but I was wondering if for the young adults, especially those in the self-harm groups, in the ones, coming from the high schools and ending the silence,
Mhm.
how easy is it for them to become facilitators of groups? Are they able to take that kind of leadership?
Well, they can't really facilitate a group until they're 18.
Okay.
So the age requirement is not supportive right now, but we do have support groups in the schools when we're not, on lockdown. We do go in the schools, and our hope is that, because they get invested and involved, whether they volunteer for the stride or they become involved in other ways, they follow us on social media, etc., that they might entertain occasionally being a speaker afterward. We do have one young adult speaker. She's not graduated yet. She's 18 though, but she's still in school. And so we've recruited her from Bucks County Technical School. But yeah, of course, the hope is that if they graduate and there's an interest, that they would come on board, because young people resonate with young people, or if they have an interest in pursuing a career path in mental health, that's certainly a great way to get involved. It's part-time. It can be worked around probably a school schedule, although we operate during normal typical school hours, which is like 7:30 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So it wouldn't be appropriate for somebody who's in full-time school. But yeah, I mean, the youth groups have gotten a little bit bigger online, and we're hoping that, that continues, if we can spread the word to let people know that there is a way for young people to be supported, because I know not everybody's that excited about this virtual learning, about taking their classes online. It's very difficult for some people to navigate the system and you don't have that classroom feedback, you don't have the teacher's input, you don't have that routine of getting up, in the morning, getting dressed, getting in a car, going to school. Everything has been interrupted and is being done differently, and there's a lot of free time on people's hands, and I know it's not working. So I have had some parents reach out to say, you know what, we're just not doing it. We can't. It's too much work. They can't. They're not doing as well online as they did in an in-class setting. So we're not going to do it. We're going to do things differently. Or they've asked to have things printed out and sent home so they can do things more old school as opposed to doing everything online. Or some young people have formed their own little collective of the going in a Zoom room with a few people, with a few young friends, and trying to say, well, what are you doing about your homework, or this paper, or this assignment, or whatever. But I know, long-winded answer to your question, which is
Yeah,
we
that's a
really
good one.
can't have high school students facilitate groups, but
Yeah.
once they turn 18, they can certainly get trained and co-facilitate for sure.
My hope for the longest time has been a mental health class in a high school or, a middle school, anything like that. So I hope that comes out of this. Thank you, Laurie.
We've been really lucky. A lot of the districts have recognized the need, and sadly, it happened after a suicide, after a completed suicide. And that's unfortunate that it didn't get attention until then. But all of the feedback that we get, and I want to say that we've addressed probably 8,000 students over the last several years, is that, oh my God, thank God you came in to talk about this, because now maybe my friends will understand what I'm going through. Maybe now I don't have to be as quiet about what I struggle with, or I can share this with my parents. I can try to get help. I can, I want to go see a therapist now based on what you told us. And we try to normalize it with very real stories about, young people, how they've experienced it, how my daughter experienced it, how I experienced it even from a young age. And, lots of things that go with it. Like I said, how it shows up in their life is very different. Like, you're not going to hear a young person most likely a very young person say, oh, I'm so depressed or anxious, or no, they're going to have headaches. They're going to have stomach aches. They're going to withdraw from activities. They're going to isolate. They're going to do things with different people that they wouldn't ordinarily do those things with. So those are the things that we tell families to watch for, but we also tell the young people, look, you are the expert on yourself. You are the one that needs to recognize, I don't typically do things this way. I'm being invited to do things that are putting my health at risk, mental health or physical health. And with that, what's a better playground than if you want to feel different or feel outside your own head and, lighten things up, somebody who offers you some type of drug or alcohol to change that mood or personality and put your head in a different place. So there's the danger right there, that we don't want young people to fall victim to that. We want them to recognize that they're having symptoms, they're having issues that can be dealt with the same sense of urgency and the same respect that they would give to a physical health injury. Sports, kids that are involved in sports, art, music, whatever. If they had a physical health issue, they would not ignore it. They would probably go, I asked the question, if you had physical health symptoms that kept you out of all the major domains of your life, your work life, your home life, your school life, your social life, whatever, your life is comprised of on a day-to-day. If you had physical health issues that interfered with that, what would you typically do? And sometimes it takes a little bit of like, oh, I'd rest, I'd eat, I'd sleep, I'd take an aspirin, I'd do this. I say, okay, the symptoms are persisting and now you've missed a week of all of the things that you did. What would you do? This, well, go to the doctor. Well, it's the same for mental health. Your mental health demands the same level of attention that a physical health issue would. NAMI, one of NAMI's things used to be before stage 4. You don't wait until, something exacerbates into a full-blown problem before you go treat it medically. You shouldn't do that with your mental health either. So if you're starting to recognize signs and symptoms that you're falling away from all of those areas of your life, you owe it to yourself. You need to exercise self-respect, and you owe it to yourself to go talk to a mental health professional. But no, the expectation is that you need to talk about it. And young people are not that comfortable talking about it. And sometimes older people are not that talking about it because we don't talk about mental health in the same way that we do a physical health issue. It's very typical. People say, oh, I have high blood pressure, I have diabetes, I had a bout with cancer, I had this, I broke this, I need a knee replacement. Those are all commonplace discussions, physical health. You don't hear people share with the same level of interest or comfort when they're having a mental health issue. Anxiety, depression, maybe drinking, maybe using substance, maybe all of those things, putting themselves at risk, or noticing that they're sleeping. Sleeping habits is one of the biggest things you look for. Interrupted sleep, inability to sleep, can't get to sleep, or guess what? All I want to do is sleep. I sleep too much. It's like a brain flu, but you don't address it with the brain flu doctor, which would be the clinician, which would be a therapist or a psychiatrist. So, you have to be the one that, it's all self-reported symptoms with regard to that. So you have to be able to articulate what's going on, where is it showing up, and then it's up to the professional to try to decipher, where those different elements could lead to in terms of a diagnosis. Are you struggling with depression? Are you struggling with a mood disorder? Are you struggling with an eating disorder? There's so many different things that can go on. The brain is extremely powerful, and it's also capable of making you experience what they call somatoform things, where if you don't get it out, it gets turned inward, and you'll have migraine headaches, and you'll have ulcers, and you'll have colitis, and you'll have all kinds of things that will internalize because the body doesn't know what to do with all this anxiety. So it's just another thing to look for, in the scheme of things. Anyone else have any questions, anything to say? Any? How are people dealing with this? How has it interrupted your life? Do you feel that it's taxed your mental health? I'm not sure if Steve is raising his hand or adjusting his computer. I know it's not that easy to talk about how these things impact you because sometimes you don't really even know. You know, we kind of feel like we're all in this boat together, but I think this has certainly shown a rise in our ability to process emotions and deal with our lives in different ways. So we're just hoping at NAMI that you can utilize us as a resource to come and talk, to come to our support groups, whether it's in a virtual environment or it's face-to-face once we resume. Judy, does that mean you're leaving us or do you have a question?
No, I have a request.
Sure.
I'm up at the courthouse,
Okay.
and being up in the family court area,
Mm-hmm.
I often make sure that it's available information for people who come in.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way I could get some type of, that I could reproduce or reproducible, something I can leave on our counters, both in
Sure.
family and civil? We do mental health issues. Of course, we deal a lot with protection from abuse.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Sure.
people coming in who know they have family who need help that,
Oh, sure. We can
you
send
know,
you
they can be
flyers.
held for so many hours, but if they're adults, you know, they
Mhm.
can sign themselves out, and then the family, I mean, we get this, I call them the frequent filers. They file
Yes.
constantly,
Yes.
and you know there's a mental illness component.
Yeah,
So
there
if I
could
could-
be that, and it could be substance, it could be
Oh.
criminal justice, all of the above.
We
Right.
we get all of the above.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't deal so much with criminal. I deal with civil and family,
Mhm.
but if I could get some things that we could leave as a
Sure.
resource for people to take with them so they have the resource, I would be greatly appreciated.
Oh, absolutely. I can forward some flyers and things, or I can
That
have
would be
some printed
awesome.
out. And if you want to give an address, you know, we can certainly mail those to you. Or
I think Rabbi always knows how to find me.
okay, she can find you,
And so can almost everybody else, I think.
you know, if she wants it in an electronic format, wants to reproduce it, that's fine. We can send all of that along. Be happy to, because that is an area that I know we've had people broach that in support groups because some of the visitation orders don't apply with the
Correct.
pandemic, and there's real fear and concern with regards to that because people are getting exposed
Yes,
in different households.
by and large, the courthouse is closed open to the public. It's mostly closed. We are still doing emergency custody, emergency injunctions,
Oh,
and
sure.
emergency protection from abuse.
Right. Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are quarantined with their abusers right now. And there's a lot of mental illness involved on both sides of those types of issues.
Yeah, and it's exacerbated by them being,
Correct.
like you said, in close contact. It's the worst possible thing. My daughter is a domestic violence abuse survivor of a few relationships where she it could have cost her life. This would have been extremely detrimental had she been forced.
Well,
Although she was pretty much forced in the last relationship she had, and she was out of state where I couldn't protect her. So she was almost kept prisoner.
Well, unfortunately, since someone is not going to work, people don't have the opportunity to get in their car or get a friend to bring them up to Doylestown to file.
Yeah.
And we know that the fallout afterwards is going to be great. We're quite prepared for that. But
that's a really scary thing.
I'm a little nervous about a couple of people that have come into my office. So
we had several reports right in the community that I live in, a couple of doors down, that there were kids that were being neglected. They were outside fending to them, you know, for themselves. And one of the children was only 18 months old. And
I believe it. Unfortunately,
well, now they're gone. They're all gone, or where they went. I don't know if children and youth got involved. I don't know, but they're gone. But it was almost worse. I felt guiltier. I'm not the one that initiated the call. Several of the other neighbors did, that they were inside in that environment all the time because they were being neglected more so inside than out.
Right.
And I was taught, or God forbid, abused in some way.
Yeah, it's a definite. It's a definite problem. So we're trying to run courts as best as we can, but keep both our staff and the public as healthy as possible. If not, it's not an easy balance for both the judges
Oh, I'm sure.
and all of the offices, but we're doing the best we can. But and the other problem is, besides being stuck, a woman's place has no room for anyone right now, and
There.
both them and legal aid are working on skeleton staffs by phone.
How about Nova? Do they have some resources?
Nova has resources, but they, again, I mean, there's
housing.
really no, it's everything is by phone, and it's
Yeah.
difficult. It's difficult
Sure.
for everyone right now, and
I'll bet.
we still staff our office, we still staff our phones, but you know, kind of our hands are tied. We're not lawyers. We can't give them legal advice. We can only tell them the forms they can fill out. You know,
Yeah.
we're kind of stuck. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah.
So
No.
but that is an issue.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, no, we'd be more than happy to send
Thank
some
you so
resources
much.
and information to you. Absolutely. In fact, something else that I neglected to mention, another support group that started out this year that I was fortunate enough to start just before all of this happened was we do support groups in the jail because they're a very underserved population and there's lots of mental health and substance, lots of family conflict, lots of what I call their point of entry. Their point of entry might have been illegal, but technically they're suffering from severe mental health issues and or substance abuse or both. And so I was able to meet with the women, and then of course we have two gentlemen that meet with the men. And were they beyond appreciative of, there's never been anything like that in the criminal justice system. AA, of course, has always been there, but that isn't the same. And of course, you know, faith-based organizations that come in, that isn't the same as when we go in there and we do like a support group, the same as we would for anybody who's not confined in a facility. And we treat them not as inmates, we just treat them as human beings who happened upon a bad time in their life, but they're owed the same respect and dignity and courtesy of being able to talk about their issues and their problems. So I'm hoping that that obviously resumes once we get our lives back, once we get out and about and a little bit more, you know. But thank you. I will definitely see to.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so what do we have there? Lots of love from the room, from some of my peeps that see me, that we all have our happy family and group. And I do say family because we are like a little family. So, Rabbi Weiss, do you think that did you have any questions, perhaps, or anything more that I could elaborate on?
I just wanted to thank you, Laurie, so much for this fabulous presentation. I found it so helpful and orienting. And I want to just thank you so much for the important work you do in our community. I'm really grateful that you have a group also at Beth El.
Yes, we're so thankful for that. Thank you again. We're very appreciative of that.
No, we are too. It's a wonderful community connection. And we're very grateful to have that. That's how I knew about you guys. And I'm just looking through the groups that you guys do, and it's really exciting and inspiring, the work that you do. I wanted to see if anybody else had any like final thoughts, questions.
Yeah, so people came in a little later. Jeff,
Yeah.
please take them down.
If anybody would like to just ask Laurie any final questions or thoughts or questions about NAMI too, because NAMI does such incredible work. There are many opportunities to partner with them and to be part of their groups.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. We welcome volunteers. We have we were going to have our major fundraiser on May 16th, but of course that had to get postponed because 700 to 1,000 people. We're not going to gather in Warminster Community Park, and we had lots of things lined up. Longhorn Steakhouse was offering food, and Rita's was ice cream. It was a huge thing that would build up, was 6 to 8 months in advance. But it is going to be now October 4th. Mm-hmm. So mark that on your calendar, October 4th. Outback Steakhouse will be providing all the food. Rita's has the ice custard happiness. And we have lots of other vendors and people there from various providers and lots of things like that. There's plenty of opportunity to support us in any way you see fit, whether it's volunteering or forming a team or being a sponsor of anybody you do businesses with. We gladly would welcome them on board. So.
Thank you so much, Laurie. This is amazing. Really glad that you could join us today, and want to thank you and Nick and all of NAMI for the work you do. and wanted to send you strength, wishes for strength and comfort, especially in light of your own, loss recently,
Well, thank you.
going ahead. And yeah, no, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. I truly appreciate it. You've been a wonderful audience. If you have any questions that come to mind after this, because often that happens, it's like, oh, I forgot to ask this, forgot to ask that. You can visit us online at NAMIBucksPA.org or on Facebook at NAMIBucks. We're very responsive to any questions or things like that. I will definitely, Judy, I will get you those resources. Anyone else who's interested in resources, like I said, we have so many groups a week, several a day. Not all mental health related. Some are very fun and just good for self-awareness, like meditation, yoga, salsa, game night, trivia night. We have Netflix nights where we show movies. Monday, May 4th, May the 4th be with you. We'll be showing a Star Wars movie, of course. So, we try to, and tonight is our creative arts group at 8:30. Anybody creative in any way, shape, or form, or if you just want to come and support all of the art and music and all the fabulous talent that we have there on Sunday nights, please consider joining us.
Great, thank you so
And
much.
thank you again, Rabbi Weiss. I was honored and privileged to address your community today, and for people that showed up, and also to my NAMI peeps.